Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you guys so much for being a part of our great community here. We really appreciate it. As this show has continued to grow, we've passed last month we had over 40 million people tune in to Redacted. So from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you for that. And then, of course, a week ago, we were suspended on YouTube for covering important stories in the news because censorship is still very strong. So we are very active on Rumble, and I want to thank all of our Rumble fans who are watching us right now live on Rumble. We've got thousands of people over on Rumble. So hello to Stick998. This is, and by the way, I should mention, Rumble is a free speech zone. It's a censorship-free platform. So all of you that are watching us on YouTube right now, that's great. Has a massive audience. Please set up your Rumble account, okay? They stand for free speech. They stand for no censorship. Please at least have a backup account. You can do that, rumble.com/redacted. Our goal eventually is to be exclusive over there. We would love nothing more than to be on Rumble full time in that way. So right now we're on both platforms in a big way. But
you guys, it feels awful
to
read something, understand that this is not my bias, this is truth, and realize I can't say it to you. Otherwise, I jeopardize our platform. And I'm not trying to ever say anything inflammatory. We are just sharing information that we are digging for ourselves. And it's a crazy world right now. And so we do our best to keep our platform. But, you know, we are super thrilled on the platforms where we're not. Yeah.
The CEO of Rumble announced today on Twitter that they are getting ready to, they're going to pay creators more than any other platform, and they're going to start doing it right now. Like he's on a mission.
Well, hello. Well, we're one of the well, first of all, we're the only channel that streams in 4K. We're the only independent news channel that streams in 4K. No one else can right now. No one else does. No one else has the server capacity to do it. That's a big bonus. And we've built this show out to be as good as we possibly can for all of you, and we work very, very hard at that. So thank you to all of you for supporting us, whether on YouTube or Rumble. And I think we're going to actually start trying to stream live again on Twitter. There's a big push to see about Twitter being a new video platform that can be really long-form video platform.
Well, let's get to the last story first before we make that decision. I know. We're going to show you some stuff about who gets to say what on Twitter.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this story because, guys, we've been warning you for months that this was coming. And now it's finally here. The World Health Organization has written its first draft. The WHO, the World Health Organization, has written its first draft of their pandemic treaty, which would create a new government authority above the authority of your elected leaders, like a super nation. Like a supranational, like the Justice League.
Yes.
Right? A super authority. And President Biden has already said that he intends on signing this treaty. And here is the advanced treaty. I've gone through it this morning. Again, you can see where it says an advanced right there in watermark in the middle of the screen. But this is an all-encompassing, whole of government, multi-stakeholder, multidisciplinary approach. And this thing is dense. And this is the first draft of it. Now, Mike Adams over at Health Ranger did a really good job pulling out some of the items that caught his attention. He had some that I missed, and then I was able to jump on additional ones that I didn't, that maybe he didn't mention. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff in here, and he did a great job of really going through, pointing for a bunch that really stood out. Number one, I think that stood out to all of us is the idea of the central role. Superseding American authority, right? So this is messaged throughout this, recognizing the central role of the WHO in pandemic prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery of health systems as directing authority and coordinating authority on international health work and convening and generating scientific evidence, and more generally fostering multilateral cooperation in global health governance. That's a long mouthful of corporatists speak to basically say we're going to take control. It's going to be central to us and not in Joe Biden's lap. It won't be in Emmanuel Macron's lap. It won't be in Justin Trudeau's lap. It'll be here at the World Health Organization. You are ceding authority to us. And President Biden said he's already going to sign this.
Well, The one part that puts my feelers up as an American.
One part?
Well, this sort of like, how would America benefit from this is that this recovery of health systems, well, the United States only has private health. There's no national health system unless you're on Medicare or Medicaid. And so how can they recover that system, which is so fragmented and broken? How could that even be possible?
I would love to see how in the world are they going to, yeah, that's a good question. How are they going to pull all of this off? You've got the UK system. You've got the United States system.
Well, the UK has a system broken as it is.
Right.
But, the United States does not. So how do you recover a system back to its broken state? I'm curious about that. And, again, this is... I think maybe most people don't choose where they live. They're born into a place and then don't make a lot of decisions. But some people do. Some people choose where they want to live. Or as Andrew, what's his last name? He says, Henderson says in his great book, Nomad Capitalist, says, go where you're treated best.
Right.
So look at the smorgasbord of countries available to you and say, where do I get the best job? Where do I get the best healthcare? Where do my kids get the best education? Where's my best quality of life? And go there. And this is removing a major piece of our ability as humans to find a place where we can live based on our own values. We would no longer be able to do that.
And Whitney Webb is going to join us in a second here with her thoughts on this, because I talked to her about this, and this is a major piece of this, right? Which is wresting control of our individuality. The idea that we're not going to be able to get in a car and travel to a friend's, a couple hours away.
Yeah.
Because we're creating these city structures now where we won't have individual ownership of cars and automobiles. It will now be a fleet that you will just call up a device and you will be taken because they don't want you to travel in this way. Carbon footprint tracking, all of this. It's to take away it's so they have control and you don't. That's what this is all about. So a couple of the other items in this World Health Organization treaty. Pandemic is a vague term. They talk about that's not defined. And of course, vague terms, of course, lead to more control of government. Just think about, this is what stood out to me through reading through this, war on terror. Like, what does that mean? What does the war on terror mean, right? So when you have vague terms like pandemic, what does that exactly mean? We can call anything a pandemic, right? So also the word response, like what is the response? What does that mean? What does response mean to a pandemic, and what does that mean? Again, these are all vague terms. In the vagary lives the tyranny. Actually, I just coined that phrase. I like that.
Okay.
In the vagary, I already forgot it.
I'm not sure it's as strong as you.
Yeah, maybe it's not as strong as I thought it was. In the vagary lives the tyranny.
It was good in the moment, and then now you're killing it.
Yeah.
Leave it be.
Trademark 2022 redacted.
I want to get a T-shirt like that. In the vagary lives the tyranny. And the word equity is used throughout all of this too. How many times? Many times without any sort of description of what social equity. What the hell does social equity mean? Right, and which groups? So these certain groups will get vaccines or healthcare over these people. Like you're going to tell us who gets what first and how things are handed out. That's your social equity. We're also pushing pandemic response products, or PRPs. I have no idea what that means. Are they vaccines? Are they masks? Are they all sorts? They're going to have strategic depots, it sounds like, of these strategic pandemic response products in certain spots and ready to go. They also ignore all natural vitamins. This is something that I really like that Mike Adams pointed out, because he writes over at Natural News, and they do some great work over at Natural News. No natural vitamin talks, no vitamin D. We know the effects of vitamin D, like just on really helping you to prevent disease. Nothing about natural preventative care, nothing in there at all. Article 7, it lets them speed up the rollout of, this is one that really stood out to me, the experimental drugs piece. No testing, no trials. Like we can just speed right through this stuff. We don't have to wait.
We've done that before.
So now it's being codified. Like now, no, we don't have to worry about these trials at all. And Article 16 basically sets up a ministry of truth. This is part of what I talked about with Whitney Webb, journalist, she's excellent on this story. So I sat down with Whitney Webb today, just a short time ago, and had a very long discussion about a whole range of topics. Whitney's going to be joining us for a redacted conversation. You don't want to miss it. It's amazing. But we talked for a few minutes quite about this latest pandemic treaty at the World Health Organization. Listen to what she has to say about it. Watch.
And if you look at the World Health Organization and its funding, it's not just from public sectors. One of its biggest, funders is Bill Gates through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and then you have other sources of income from there as well. And you have ties to big pharma, for example. So if you look at Bill Gates, for example, and a lot of his philanthropy, it's not really philanthropy; it's impact investing. He openly talks about, for example, his investments in vaccines generate a larger return on investment than anything he's ever invested in his entire life. So does that sound like philanthropy or altruism to you? No. So, he's looking to make money essentially and looking for control. And he has a very specific agenda that a lot of people have pinpointed that's related to reducing, the size of the global population, among other things. So you have that in the mix, and a lot of pull from, non-public sector actors on the World Health Organization that are influencing directly the policy there. So, and talking about what we were discussing a moment ago with like transhumanism and basically the new eugenics, if you look at what big pharma is getting into now, a lot of it are joint ventures with major Silicon Valley companies to create new types of medicines. People like Mike Yeadon, for example, have talked a lot as having sort of an insider view of big pharma, that a lot of the most novel products that they've made and could possibly make are either generics by now or they're already on the market. So they're having an innovation problem, like they're out of products to make money off of. They have to make new conditions in order to make new products to take to market, right? And so they had originally gambled a lot of money on the mRNA stuff, but couldn't even get those into human trials previously because of toxicity issues in animal trials. And of course, COVID removed a lot of the past regulatory hurdles they previously couldn't pass. And so what I think is likely to happen with this World Health Organization stuff, if it goes through, is that you're going to further reduce, basically eliminate the ability of national governments to regulate the types of solutions pushed on countries in a future pandemic by the WHO. It could really be anything. It could be mRNA vaccines. It could also be DNA vaccines, which they tried to pitch in early 2020 and didn't really take off. It could be CRISPR types of injections, which is this DNA editing in vivo that has more money behind it than even the mRNA stuff. There's this whole new area of medicine that they've been trying to get off the ground, but people have been really reluctant to buy into it. And that was the case with mRNA stuff before COVID, but now it's been normalized. They've changed the definition of things even to make it qualify as a vaccine. So now they've changed all the words. They want to clamp down on dissent, so you can't say anything the WHO is saying is crap, or you can't point out the conflicts of interest. And if you're looking again at where the direction big pharma is going, it's these mergers with Silicon Valley. A great example is GlaxoSmithKline and Google Health's joint venture called Galvani Bioelectronics. The former head of that was the head of Operation Warp Speed, Moncef Slaoui. And again, Operation Warp Speed in the U.S. was run by the military, DARPA, and very shady aspects of the deep state, just to lay that out there.
Just laying that out there. Whitney Webb, who I asked earlier today, I said,
that makes me want to follow the money and read the ingredients of Beyond Meat a lot more.
God, yeah.
Yeah. Partnering with Silicon Valley.
So a deep discussion about this, and really, really troubling. So, she really connects the dots and does an incredible job. And we should all be concerned about this. This is not, as the term conspiracy theory was born out of the JFK assassination, right? People who were asking questions about that.
Yeah.
I was one of them. I have been for many, many years, right? If you asked that question, you were labeled then a conspiracy theorist. And then, of course, it became a pejorative. So you didn't want to be known as you didn't want to be known as a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, he's right. David's right. The CIA coined the term conspiracy theorist to delegitimize people who were asking about JFK.
Yeah. So, you're just and now I think it's first of all, I love the term because, again, I think it's it's a way of pointing towards saying, hey, we're asking questions, and in 6 months, we're probably going to be right about it.
Yeah.
So you'll label us a conspiracy theorist now, and in 6 months, spoiler alert, what we're talking about is going to come true. But it's already happening. Like, all you need to read is their policy papers. You need to see what's happening with the World Health. It's in their document. It's right here in their pandemic treaty about what's going to happen. So when we have the next big, pandemic, whenever that is, right around the corner, these things will be in place, and we will have little, if no choice, because they'll be able to hand it off to the World Health Organization. Unelected people, unelected globalists, elites who control you.
Yeah.
That's at the heart
I
of
don't
this.
know. I'm increasingly more comfortable asking these questions. Like, why do we need a single, when especially the story we did yesterday about how Sweden seems to be getting out of this pretty A-okay, getting good grades on their pandemic response compared to other countries. Wouldn't that be a case for autonomous countries?
Yes.
So that people then can choose where is the safest place for my family, where I feel like the government is less scary and authoritative.
Right.
And this is something that could be removed from us globally. Although, again, in Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro said, no, we would never do this. Brazil is autonomous, but he may not be in power by the time this document is ratified. There are certain African nations who are saying, no, will that cause a migration into these regions? Who knows, right? But it's just something, if you follow this nomadic lifestyle that Andrew Henderson talks about, you feel like more and more choices are being taken from you.
Oh yeah, all the time. And as you become, something that Whitney Webb talks about, she's, as you become really uncomfortable, where you don't have food, you don't have energy, you don't have these things in your life anymore, and then they give you little scraps of things, you're thankful, and then you end up taking them, because when you're beaten down is when you become more compliant, right? Yeah. So you're not going to have the things that you're not going to own anything, right? You're not going to have access to major things anymore. You're not going to have access to land. You're not going to have access to vehicles. You're not going to have access to cash.
Does that mean we wouldn't need a car payment or insurance because there'd be someone?
Oh, they'll probably give you a stipend. It'll be some sort of they're just gonna keep you on so antidepressants, biopharmaceuticals. So the biopharmaceuticals will keep you sedated. They'll make you
sterile.
They'll make sure you have your Netflix and your alcohol, and they'll just keep you in this like sedated mode. So you're like a bunch of sheep. That's literally what we're getting to.
Like suddenly every post-apocalyptic movie seems valid.
Yeah. I mean, and it's...
Well, and that's why they don't want, misinformation, disinformation. We're not smart enough to get truth. So they want to control that as much as possible so that we can just stay dumb and they can tell us exactly all we need to know. And we can just live our happy, injected lives of whatever they want to give us. Eat bugs and... Just shut up.
Well,
like
someone in our chat says
WALL-E.
Dr. Mengele stuff. Crypto says Dr. Mengele stuff. Yeah.
Like the movie WALL-E, where they're all just like floating around with their screens with that drink.
Giant big gulps.
Yeah. And just drinking their unhealthy food and like in a little zone, and that's A-okay.
They do not want us to be healthy. If they did, they would, come and tell us about seed oils. They would absolutely make a point to not, all of the corn subsidies and everything that we're putting in our car, like biodiesel, like all of this garbage, all of the way that the food pyramid is constructed. If they really cared about our health, it wouldn't look at all the way it looks now.
Jennifer and I were just talking about this the other day, how the Amish have it figured out, aside from the religion thing, which I have issues with, but as a community, they have it figured out. They live in little communities and the communities take care of each other. They eat locally. They eat the stuff that they grow in that certain area. They all get together every Sunday and have what's called a haystack dinner. And they're just very communal, and they eat fresh, good food. And it's not, what we're getting. And it's like, that's what we should be doing. We should be living in little communities, but we've just become so far from our community that now we're eating crap food, fast food, because it's cheap, and we're not connected to our food at all. We're not connected to I'm not even connected to my neighbor across the street, and it's like, that to me is like, it's sad. It's a sad state, but like, I wish we could get back to that kind of communal living.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. Let us know your thoughts on this in the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from on this Wednesday.